Okay, so now it is, what is it? April 28th, 2022 at about 2:15 in the morning. Anyway, so, War Room 3, my kitchen table. On this side of it, there's that computer over there, okay? Anyway, okay, that's called a thesaurus. Right. That's called the Criminal Code of Canada. This one's from 2018. I have one for 2009 and I can't find it. But it has all these little sticky things in it, right? And do you think I can find my little sticky things right now? No. Anyway, I did find this. So, can you tell I'm perturbed? One, mostly because of my eyes, people. I mean, I am trying to get in the zone here, right? You have to be in the zone for this kind of stuff. I'm going to walk you through it. In terms of how I do this. Right. So, what I'm going to start off with, once I turn on this computer, is I'm going to write that letter of direction for HSBC Bank to deal with those two accounts that remain open. And then I'm going to open up a new page and I'm going to go attention to in the care of. I'm just not sure what names I'm going to insert. And then I'm going to start my, I guess you could say, rough draft for this letter to the head office of the RCMP, because that's, I tried to explain to Andre. You should see what he did. I took away his, those things. And he's been bugging me to be, like, watching the laptop. Oh, you said I could watch half of the other half of whatever I was watching before I put it in its bag and put it in my sewing room, right? I wouldn't let him do it yesterday, and I wouldn't let him do it today. Towards the end of the night, he did break down and ask me if he could watch a video on VCR. I told you. I said no. Anyway, I'm just explaining to Andre that he's, he's growing up and, he's getting bigger and he's going to get stronger and, he's going to be a man soon and he's, comes with that, his responsibilities and, I want him to grow up to be wholesome and to be in touch with reality and know how to do things and otherwise, he's in the zone, right? And set the boundaries. Today was actually a pretty good day. Yesterday was rough. Oh, yesterday he was really butting heads with me yesterday. Today he was pretty good, and then he's like, I don't have a lot of space, right? But he managed to set himself up in the living room. He pushed my shit out of the way, brought his shit in. He brought in his trumpet, and those mats that you lay on the floor for children so that they can take their little cars and trucks and on the mat, right? Because it's a design, right? He's got that all laid out on the floor. So, because I was taking a nap, right? That's why I'm doing this. Now, I've done lots of other things. This has to be done. So I have to start it. It's important. And I was explaining to Andre that when you talk about something, because, you know, I try to encourage him to read and write and all that, but I tell him, you know, when you talk about something, you know, I can talk. Talk is easy. But when you got to take it to paper, it can get complicated. It doesn't always come out exactly the way you thought it was going to come out or the way you wanted it to come out in terms of whatever it is that you're writing, especially if you're asking for something. Like when I wrote for the foundation, I was asking for, what was it? $160 million a year from the provincial government as seed money for the foundation to branch off to all the districts within the province to set up a universal school meal program. It didn't mean that the government had to give the foundation $160 million. It just meant that the government needed to cough up $160 million so that, you know, it could be distributed between all school districts with their designated agency, I suppose, that could financially manage that kind of money, right? As seed money. But that's little did I know. So anyway, when you writing things like that are like, I don't know. I mean, it's $160 million for a government isn't a lot of money, right? Especially if it could benefit hundreds of thousands of people, right? It would have been a good investment. When you ask for things to that kind of degree, to which, when I write the RCMP, it's kind of up in the same ranks, I would think. Because both are serious, although both receiving parties don't take it serious. You see, that's the problem. Right. As if the government would listen to me in terms of a universal school meal program and just hand out $160 million to all the school districts across the province just to show good faith, right, in terms of seed money. And then, of course, the federal government would have matched that, and then the community as a whole could have matched that. We were rocking with money. It would have been more than enough money to get a universal school meal program going in the province in the British Columbia, Canada, okay? But that's not what the politicians want and their partner groups. Okay, so I'm kind of like, well, you're at the same kind of, I don't want to say political level, but really when you think about it, there's a lot of politics involved. And being that I'm dealing with the RCMP, especially on a federal level, being that the government only sees this as entertainment, right? Well, with that entertainment comes a green light, okay? Until we show up at court. Andre asked me, he says, Nana, are you going to be in court for my birthday? My court trial date is set on September 19th of 2022. I suppose when I show up, the judge will try and throw it out that day because I won't be able to pay for the day. And I'll just tell him, bill me. Just bill me. All right? I'm good for it. Seriously, I'll make it in fucking payments if I have to. Right? And if I'm on court on his birthday, quote unquote, I told him he can come to court that day with me on his birthday. Right? So, what was I saying before that? Hey, at least I'm sitting here and I'm like getting serious about it, okay? Because, you know, you can't just write a story, right? Not that that's what I'm doing, because it's not. You have to kind of fight fire with fire. And being that it's the federal government under federal law, which under the Criminal Code of Canada is basically obsolete because of the autonomy that provinces have across the country in regards to making their own legislation, rules, mandates, orders, those kind of things under one federal, well, it doesn't even have to be federal, right? The province itself can call an emergency and then rewrite the book. And then the only time that they would ever use the Criminal Code of Canada is when it benefits them and when they're arresting people and that kind of stuff, right? But if they're being held to account, that's a whole different story. But if you want to get their attention, you have to kind of at least make an attempt to meet them at, I don't want to say their level, because they're certainly not superior, although they think they are. But you got to at least attempt to get to their level, to meet them, not to get to, but to meet them at their level and kind of speak their own lingo a little bit, right? So whatever I write to head office, there needs to be citation in terms of the various sections that I think have been breached, whether on a provincial level, municipal level, or whether on a federal level. Because calling in the RCMP, well, I ain't calling them in, I'm asking them to jump in. Okay. Right. Being that they got a boat, and if they jumped in, they would still float, right? It's not like they're just jumping into water and it's sink or swim. No, they got a fucking boat there, you know. You're not, so what? You get a little wet. That's okay. I'm just being cocky here, people. I'm trying to wrap my head around this. I'm trying to think what's my mode of attack. And just in light of who I'm writing this letter to, it would only make sense to kind of meet them at their level and, you know, cite the Criminal Code of Canada, even though I myself have faith in the Criminal Code of Canada, but I don't have faith in the representatives of the Criminal Code of Canada because of that corruption. However, I tell Andre that when you talk, like I'm talking right now, it's easy to sit up there and say shit. And it all sounds good, and it all sounds reasonable, and it all sounds doable, but it's another thing sitting down and writing it out, where you don't get called frivolous and scandalous and a waste of the court's time. Because at the end of the day, if they don't, you know, you can lead a horse to water, but if it doesn't want to drink, it won't drink. And we know that the cards are not in my favor, right? It's a simple copy and paste for them to just ignore it, right? In terms of it's frivolous, right? I'm, what's that other word? You know, running at the mouth, right? So, I figure, let's get to the point here. I don't want to drag this out. As a matter of fact, I don't even want to sit. It's so hard turning on the computer because it's mind draining. Like seriously, you don't know how mind draining it can get. And not only can it get mind draining, but it keeps you in that fantasy land where you think there's justice, right? And then after you go through the motion of whatever it is that you're seeking to accomplish, and you get, you know, nothing really out of it other than a nothing, and one big headache, a lot of running around, a lot of insults, whatever. It's a lot of gaslighting in general, because people prefer the status quo. They don't like to rock boats. They're comfortable with their jobs, especially, you know, if they got something to hide, right? And so, you know, after going through with Andre, battling, because you have to remember, I was battling before they even took Andre. Right? Because we had that family preservation team try and get Austin and Sierra to move out with Andre as a newborn because they were, quote unquote, a family, even though Austin was choking the shit out of Sierra where she'd pass out. Like, come on. I'm writing and I'm, you know, doing whatever. So, you know, then it, and this was, and of course I did all those years with the nonprofit, right? And then when they took Andre, even more and more, just, and then Uncle John's lawsuit, and then Shimei's lawsuit, and here I find myself again. But this is important, extremely important. And I told Andre, it's one thing talking, it's another thing learning to write it down, what you're thinking, so that other people can understand, right? And that's what I'm going to attempt to do here again. And knowing who I'm dealing with, it would be in my best interest to bring out the Criminal Code of Canada with certain sections cited. So that means I have to read this again. That's why I missed my other one, because everything is easy. It's already marked off. And don't forget, I can't fucking see, okay? Like, you don't know. It's really, really bad. I'm sure I'll find it soon. I should probably make plans to order another one before September. Last time I was standing in front of a judge with the Criminal Code of Canada, I think I had the 2009, and he told me it was outdated and that I needed to get myself a new one. So I ended up getting myself a new one, but if you notice, this one's 2018. Yeah, 2018. Right? So they're about $80 or something like that. I can't remember. But it's a good start, right? So I'm starting fresh, and then get the police mandate, which I have, I'm pretty sure, a copy of back in the day with Shimei and Uncle John. It's an old mandate, but you know, you'll get the gist. I'll go through it as fast as I can, and I'll try and see if there's something in there that I can add in, where either the RCMP failed to do, or should have done, or could have done. I don't know. I have to go through it. And then the Dangerous Substance Act, which I'm pretty sure I have a copy of. Because this was all related to... Now we're going into Sierra and Austin fighting in court, right? Or whatever. I'll know when I can find it, when it was printed out, what year it was, and then I'll tell you who I was fucking fighting for. Like, seriously, man. So that's like two mandates, two legislations. They're not, well, the police mandate is a mandate, I think. And then the Dangerous Substance Act, which is, you know, when you think of fentanyl is useless, being that organized crime is running the fentanyl to carry on with illegal organ harvesting, to which the federal government head office should not be ignoring, especially if their boys are being, or women, are being targeted for being good cops and kicked off the force because the cities are bringing in private policing, basically, but yet still hiring on ex-fired RCMP officers. To me, that sounds like a direct conflict of interest, okay? Not that I know anything about conflict of interest, but if I was to say, right, talking about it is a whole lot another thing sitting here trying to write it out. And that's why I have a hard time sitting down and getting started. I go through this But once I'm going and I'm going and I'm going, I'm good to go. The longer I do it, the faster I get at it. Not that I'm good at it, but I like to think I'm not that bad at it either. Right? It's just my eyes. I can't really see anything. It's really hard, like, you don't know. Right, so I'm going to try, I gotta look at this. This is how bad it is, people. I'm going to end this video. How about that? How about I keep it short? Right? Okay. I'll show you my little workspace. Look. I think these are the ones I wear all the time, which obviously my eyes are getting worse. These ones I came across just the other day, and I can kind of see on the computer with them. So I'm going to try this one now. This one has a different font than that over there, and this one kind of fries my eyes with the program that I'm using because the font is so freaking big, and it's just, ooh, it's a different kind of size screen. So my eyes, I'm going to try these ones, but they probably won't work. All right. So one or the other. I think I was using my other glasses, but I can't find them now. I'm going to try these ones that I just recently got, but they're not really meant for like this distance, but I don't have too many choices here, right? Now, as I work on this, I am going to read off and on, so you can see the progress of it and how it comes together. Okay, it's going to take me, I don't know. I'd like to think a couple, 2-3 weeks, but you know, I'm getting in the yard and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and so you know, I want to get just the general. Well, it's a draft, really. That's all it is. Just the general bulk of highlighted points that are there, and then build in the evidence, I guess, and this kind of stuff. Well, this stuff will come first, then it's the evidence, right? In terms of like what happened next door. I'm going to start with that, people. That's the camel that, or what is it? Broke the camel that broke the horse's back or something. Something. Icing on the cake. I don't know. That just really disturbs me. You don't know, right? If that is an indication of what our future holds, we're in trouble, okay? It's not a future that I want for my grandson. And knowing what I know, it's not anything that I want for anybody coming out of jail, okay? But currently, right now, in my opinion, I do feel like that. People being released from jail, whatever, are being targeted more so for their organs now, in this day and age, than they were, let's say, 30 years ago. Okay? So, I have to write it down. I don't know how I'm going to write it where it doesn't make me sound like I'm a freaking lunatic. Because it only happens in China and to the Falun Gong. They're the only ones who have their organs illegally harvested because the Chinese have figured it out. Oh, let's not forget the Muslims too, right? The 1 million that sit up in China somewhere in a camp, just waiting for their number to be called. Okay, people, let's be real. It's not just China. Especially when you have the cartel here in British Columbia, Canada, with the triad gangs and all this other shit. And that's only one ethnic group, okay, that's participating in it. The point is it's being facilitated through our hospital systems and through our through taxpayers' dollars and through the workforce, whether they're doing it knowingly or unknowingly, in terms of the public union sector. right? So I told Andre, it's one thing talking about things, it's another thing when you actually have to sit down and write it. But you got to keep trying. That's the point. Because if you don't try, you'll never be able to write it. He's not even there yet. He's got a long way to go to fully understand that, right? And even then, I don't think it ever really, like, you know, what am I trying to say? Once you get to that point where you can write something, you know, like I said, actions speak louder than words, right? This is where you have to bring action. So I'm going to show you. Right? I'm going to end this video. As a matter of fact, I'm going to convert it. And as it's converting, I am going to turn on this computer. You have to stay awake, right? I can't go to sleep. Right? And work on my little letter of direction first. And then all I'm going to do is start a page, attention to, in the care of, this letter is in regards to, blah, 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 blah.